it's Terry. Today I want to talk to you about something that's weighing on me a little heavy. Vicki and I were on the way home yesterday, and she read me a story about a woman named Heather Armstrong. You may or may not know who she is, depending upon your age, but in the early 2000s, she was quote unquote one of the first mommy bloggers. Her name is Heather Armstrong. She used to go by, she created a website called Dooce.com, Dooce, Dooce. And she worked in a startup, and the long and the short of it is she used to spend her time, instead of guess working, writing kind of like satirical jokes and what life in the startup was like. And she kind of turned into a mommy blogger when she got married and got pregnant. Well, she got deuced, as they say, because the company found out she was blogging and they fired her. And so she kind of had a moment in the sun, if you will, and probably on through. I have not paid that much attention to her since the early 2000s, but my wife kind of has. Well, what I'm sad to report today, and what I want to talk around, and what does this have to do with what I generally talk about, which is health, wellness, addiction, that sort of thing, is that she committed suicide on May 9th. She took her own life at 47. She was at 47 years of age. And turns out, as I started digging around, she had struggled with alcohol addiction, and she had been sober for 18 months. And she had a recent relapse. Now, the article that I read a couple. No one is drawing the connection, oh, she relapsed and then she committed suicide, or that it was anything that strong. But when you read some of her own posts, there's a flavoring of this. So I don't want you to get the idea that I don't know her situation, is what I'm trying to say. However, today, as I was kind of going through, I subscribed to a few email lists from other sober people, or sober influencers, or people that help people, or whatever you want to call them. And they didn't mention her by name at all. However, the conversation was around what's the goal of these groups. Someone was actually stating in one of the groups about just how people in the group, on their Facebook group, were constantly having day ones and whining about it, basically, and it just struck me kind of odd in light of what happened to Dooce, or what happened to Heather. Because when we're made to feel uncomfortable, or we're made to feel shame and blame when we use social media and screens too much, and that drives up anxiety in us, right? We eat crap food and feel like crap the next day. Maybe use alcohol too much. It drives us to a place of needing to escape, to numb out, as they would say, right? It might start as pleasure, like, oh, I need to relax, have a good time with my friends, but at the end of the day, you're kind of moving in an escapism type role, right? And all of these behaviors that are in our society now, I hate to sound so alarmist, because I hate when I sound alarmist, but you need to be mindful of what's going on around us, right? And they move us into our higher risk category of just higher risk for being like a caged animal, is how these social media apps are making you feel. And we have to make, I wrote a note here. I want to say around stuff like, this is a very important point. Social media, alcohol, for us dudes, maybe pornography online that's just so accessible. Gaming, where you go in your room and you're playing games all the time on the computer. I don't have much into that. We don't, and you feel yourself compelled to these activities, is my point. And alcohol, right? We don't have to make these things work in our lives. It's not like, well, I should be able to handle this and I need to make this fit. Fuck that. I'm not saying you have to go total abstinence on it either necessarily, but what I'm saying is you need to be that first step of awareness. This situation is causing a problem. And the answer is not always, well, I've got to figure this out. Those things that I mentioned, they're problematic by their very nature. Some of them by design. And you just need to be aware of that, right? So what bothers me also is I don't think Heather Dooce felt a sense of self-worth, right? And I just, in this culture that we're in right now, I just want to affirm to you and to anyone's listening that you are worthy. If you are alive right now and can hear my voice, you are worthy. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of understanding and just being able to exist, right? Just let that sink in. You are worthy. Not because you do things or don't do things or you're good or you're bad or you've done bad things. You are worthy and deserve love and understanding. Okay? So let that wash over you and sink in. The reason why it also bothers me, I made some notes, is there seems to be a split from the emails that I've been reading lately of the camps of what is the goal of the journey. The journey being our goal in my mind, and I'm more in the camp that the vast majority of us who might struggle with alcohol are currently addicted, but there is a way out. There is a path out of addiction and to live a life beyond your wildest dreams. It's not a label that you take on, and it's not a sentence of like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, I've got to go sit in this other room like you're at the kiddie table at Thanksgiving. Uh, but there are some, okay, so one email list I did, one sober coach, if you will, said that it's of course about consecutive days of not drinking, meaning that somebody was saying, oh, I'm in this Facebook group and all they do is whine about, oh, I drank again, oh well, I guess it's day one for me again, and they can't, and they're like, why can't I fix this and whatever. They were kind of making fun, being judgy basically, right? And this coach responds to the answer of course, it's about days of consecutive days. The goal is being sober. She said, we shouldn't judge people, blah, blah, blah. But then she goes on to say, these places can be sympathy pools for repeating some behaviors, or at least I think she quoted someone as saying that these online locations can be sympathy pools for repeating the same old behaviors over and over again. And so what I'm trying to set up for you in this, if you're with me, is that the recovery phase, or the I'm not going to drink anymore culture, is like, if I don't drink, I'm good. If I have a drink and I relapse, then I'm bad. And it's the same with diet culture. If I eat healthy and I'm doing these activities and I'm losing weight, then I'm good. And if I'm not, then I'm bad. And that's just that leads to shame and blame cycle. Shame and blame cycle is shame. I feel shame for eating that ice cream or drinking that beer. I withdraw. I feel alone. I turn to a substance to make myself feel better. I continue to do that routine until I can't take it anymore. I feel there's real damage, and I'm like, I'm never going to do that again. And you set this big impossible goal without any support, any help, or anything else around it. You just make the goal out of thin air and you fail again, and it leads you right back through that cycle. You've got to try something different. You've got to do something different to break that cycle. And I'm concerned, or it bothers me, I should say, that there are certain people out there, methods, whatever you want to call it, that kind of give you the tough love, if you will, of that's what you need to do. And I'm just not in that camp. I just want to let you know, right? Um, the reality is, though, as I go to my next card, is that in order to change your drinking habit, you have to change your drinking habit, right? At some point, you do have to do something. You have to take action, and and that's where it gets a little sticky, like what to do. And also, it's sticky of like putting yourself out there, right? That's why these groups. That's why I like to do most of the time. When I help people, it's an email, me and them, back and forth, kind of framing things up for them. But the point is that sometimes, you know, you've heard me talk about, if you look around on my channel or read some of the things I've done, there's awareness. Well, there's ignorance. Hey, I'm drinking all the time. Life is good. Whatever. I don't care. Awareness is, I think this is a problem, but you're not really sure what to do, how to do it, or even if you can handle doing anything. And then there's acceptance. And a lot of times we blow right through awareness and we're like, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. And we don't even know what the hell we're doing or how to do it, and then you're like, oh, I failed. And you just go and you want to run away back to ignorance. Like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to see. And if awareness is all you've got in you right now, I just want you to know that's a huge place to be. Huge place to be. And don't let anyone take that away from you. Okay? Acceptance and moving towards action is not easy. But at some point, if you really want to change, if that's really what keeps coming up over and over, that you need to make a change, then yes, at some point you're going to have to not drink the beer or drink the wine, right? You got to take some time of clarity. But it's not just like. So let me get on to the next card, because I think you understand what I'm saying. At least I hope so. My friend, total badass woman named Holly Whitaker, she used to always say, and probably still does to people, the point, and before I read this, I never fully understood it almost until this day. Like, I understood most of it, I think, but until this day and Heather Armstrong's death and passing, did I not fully understand what Holly was trying to say in this quote. So here we go. The point or the goal is not to not drink, but to build a life that you don't want to escape from. So the point is not just not drinking. Okay, I'm not drinking. I won the game. No. You have to build a life for yourself that you don't want to escape from. A life where you can feel it all. You feel the good, you feel the bad, and you feel like you can handle it, right? You want to feel like in real time, like this is life, right? I'm not checked out. I'm sitting here. This is my little neighborhood, what I call the church pond, because it's essentially they dammed up this little drainage creek, if you will, and they made a cute little pond. They got ducks out here, and people come out and feed the ducks, and it's a lovely day. And I like to come out here and just think and be, right? And that's just by myself sometimes, or with a camera. But the point of what Holly was saying is you need to build a life for yourself, right? And I'm going to get back to that point, because what does that life look like? That life is a life of worth, of value, of self-love, of self-discovery, about doing things, the arts, reading, music, draw, paint, sculpt. I have a friend who took up pottery, for crying out loud. She's in her 40s, I think she is, Lindsay. And she's badass at it. I love drinking tea out of the cup she made for me. It's about healthy eating. It's about doing some exercise, going for a walk every day. You do those things, right? Yeah, instead of just letting yourself off the hook, saying, "Oh, it's too hard. I can't do anything." And what I want to say here is, if you're over 50, like I am, and that's who I like to talk to, are people that are over 50, the clock is ticking on us, right? Is this the life we want to lead? Do we want to go back into our office, our little private room somewhere, and play video games, or do we want to engage with our family? Do we want to eat crap food because it's easy and you're like, it's too hard? Life is hard. It's time for a change. It's time to design a life for yourself, right? And I think that Holly's point is, yes, not drinking can be a huge contributing factor to all of this good stuff, right? Everything, in my opinion, lies on the other side of that. But getting yourself ready to go from awareness into a life of acceptance and action, right? You can be doing things that maybe are a little bit more obtainable for you, like showing yourself self-compassion, picking up a journal and writing to yourself in the mornings, expressing gratitude, just giving your loved ones a kiss every day. Like, it doesn't have to be this big uh, for your wife or your husband, give them a kiss. I heard a woman, Gretchen Rubin, recently just say that there's so much you can communicate in a simple kiss that you don't even have to say. But things like that will help lay the foundation, so when you're ready to take that step and ditch the booze, you're building that life around you. And it can be so fucking hard. I know it, because you get so myopic into this thing of like, I've got to do this thing, and I'm telling you, the pool is a lot deeper than just not drinking, and you can build that life on the other side, where you can live a life of freedom from alcohol, but also a life where you can start to get back, where the fountain it starts to flow out of you to other people. So, in short, I just want to pause and remember that there are people in this world that are struggling, and placing blame and judgment on them is not the answer, because you don't know where where and how that will impact people. What I'm trying to say. This whole fucked up notion where, oh, they can't handle their alcohol, so they have a problem, when 90% of the people in the room all have some kind of fucked up thing in their head about alcohol, and they're struggling too. They just don't want to admit it, right? Um, where our culture is like, well, they're fat, that's their problem, right? When our society is just eat all the time, and here's your phone, and look on social media, and try to get you an outrage culture and all the rest. And maybe I'm doing damage to my message by bringing all that up. Just my point to you is that you are loved, you are worthy, and I am here to be your first alcohol-free, sober friend. So we can start talking. I have a link. I'm very close to having my own little guide to help you break free from alcohol, from the cycle of addiction, and just get on the list. I get people that email me every day. You put your name in there, boom, it'll send you some kind of automated. You click it to say you're on the list, great, and then you have my email. Shoot me an email. You'd be surprised when I respond. You will be surprised. Ask my friend Ed, right? Uh, Ask my friend Roberto, I think is his name. Ask my friend Paige. Uh, Ask my friend Kathleen. I email people. It's what I do. And so let me be your friend. I'm here for you. And I wish you the best.